When God's hand is on your life, even when you don't believe in God, He's still with you. And it was crazy. He showed me that I was still with you through all of that, man. Blizzard of 1996. Blizzard of 1996 was a moment for me that what can I say? That I didn't know God at all. I didn't care about God. Didn't care to serve God. Matter of fact, this was my hustling days, you know what I'm saying? I'm prime, I'm like at the peak of it, I'm into it. And I just had a newborn son. He had been born January the 1st. And so I don't even know how, Blizzard of 96, I forgot what day that actually happened on, but he was just still a baby. And I remember a guy calling me, it was early in the morning. It had to be about 9, 10. That's early for a dude selling drugs. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't get up to about 1 o'clock before you get your day started. But I just remember the guy calling me and saying, "Look, man, I got such and such." And I said, "Nah, I ain't moving for that. I wasn't gonna move. It's snowing outside." And then he would call me back a couple of minutes later. It's like, "Look, I got this." Well, me driven by greed at the time, I'm getting up out of my bed. My wife, now my wife, it was my girlfriend at the time. She was asleep. The baby was asleep, and I'm leaving out. I had an apartment right up here, actually right up here in Addison Chapel. I never forget that. And it was on the ground floor. So when you came into the building, you walked down to the apartment. So I was coming. As I was locking the door, so I'm going out to meet the dude. As I'm locking the door, I hear a voice, and the voice was just like, "Run." Just like an audible voice for me. Some people say they got a gut feeling. For me, it was that audible voice. And I just ran. And when I ran out, I just locked the door real fast, ran up out of the building, and ran probably, I can't even, a good little distance. It wasn't far, like lamppost to lamppost type distance. And then I heard the same voice say, "Stop," and turn around. So I stopped, I turn around, I look back at the building because I still see the building door in sight. And as I'm looking at the building, the dude come out, and he looking at me and I'm looking at him. And we just looking at each other. And then the dude goes back up in the building, still standing there. And then next thing you know, 3 dudes come running out the building. 2 of them had masks on, 1 of them didn't, and they ran through some bushes because it was like a little bush that sat right there, and they dipped through the bushes and they rolled out. And I'm like, man, dang, these dudes come to rob me. So I ended up going back. So I didn't go back to the house right back because I ain't had no pistol on me. That was my mindset at the time. So I go holler at my mans and them who had a pistol. We come back to the house, because they only live right around the corner. So I dipped around the corner, grabbed and picked them up. We came back to the house, went in there, everything was cool. So after I made sure my wife, I keep saying my wife, but my girl at the time and my son was cool, I dipped as I was going back down Addison Road. So I'm going down Addison Road at this time. I see my mother walking up the street. Like it's snowing. I mean, it's blizzard, because when blizzard, you got both, it's no sidewalk basically. All it is the street. So she walking along the side of the street. And so next thing you know, like, "Mom, what you doing?" She was like, "Some dudes just ran up in her house." So simultaneously, some dudes ran up in my house and ran up in her house at the time. But this is the flip thing. See, Mama was a gangster. 7 dudes ran up in her house. 3 dudes came to me. 7 ran up in them. They say there's about 7 of them. And when they pulled the gun out on her, they actually got to her. They pulled the gun out on her. She ended up cranking the dude. So knocked the gun out his hand, and now they tussling over the gun. And the other dudes just like, they stunned, you know what I'm saying? That's what my uncle and them tell me, because they was there, you know what I'm saying? They was surprised. And so nobody got hurt. They grabbed a few little dollars or whatever, and they rolled out. And that was just really the end of how. But when I look back on it, I realized how God was even with me in my mess. It wasn't, luck. It wasn't, it wasn't none of that. It wasn't happenstance. It wasn't luck. It wasn't anything. When God's hand is on your life, even when you don't believe in God, He's still with you. And it was crazy. He showed me that I was still with you through all of that mess. So that's just the testimony I can give about that.